Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Autumn Schuch. I'm the inspection manager for the food safety program within the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Thank you for joining our first monthly webinar series presentations where we will be sharing some knowledge on a variety of food safety topics. We know your lives are very busy, but we are encouraged that you have chosen to spend some time with us. Our staff are always looking for opportunities to engage with food operators outside of official inspections. And since we are all Zoom experts because of the pandemic, we wanted to join the online fun. We hope that this web series helps to connect us. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start, because that's a necessary evil. I would like to review these with you. So all participant microphones will be muted through the webinar. You may submit questions during the presentation by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Questions and comments will be monitored and answered by the Kansas Department of Agriculture team. Regulatory considerations covered today are only applicable to those operating in Kansas, of course. Our 30-minute webinar will go quickly today. Today's session will be recorded and posted online for those who weren't able to attend. After this session, you will receive an email with a link to the webinar recording and some of the COVID-19 resource materials that we have. Most importantly, the email will contain a link to a survey, of course, and we really would appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to provide feedback as well as ideas for future outreach topics. So without further ado, I want to do some introduction of our speakers. We have a team of 3 inspectors presenting today about remote inspections. This team is based out of the Kansas City metro area, but don't worry, inspections are the same no matter where you are located in the state. We have Daniel Bauer, Tiffany Butler, Shayna Guyton presenting today. Let's hear from Daniel first.
I just wanted to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. I know there are a lot of things you could be doing with your time, and we appreciate you taking some of it with us. So it's no surprise to anyone that COVID-19 has affected almost every aspect of our lives over the last year, and we here at the Kansas Department of Agriculture Food Safety and Lodging Program are no exception to that rule. So today we're going to be talking about remote food safety inspections during this COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Daniel Bauer. I'm a food inspector up here in the northeast area of Kansas in the Johnson and Wyandotte area. Later on, you're going to be hearing from Tiffany Butler and Shayna Guyton. So is COVID-19 a foodborne illness? In short, no. The CDC, the USDA, and the FDA are not aware of any reports at this time that COVID-19 has been transmitted by food or food packaging. That said, you should still be following COVID-19 employee health policies from the FDA, the CDC, and other sources. We've been doing remote inspections for the protection of our staff since around May. And it's important to note that these remote inspections aren't actually going to be evaluating your COVID-19 protocol. That won't be going on the inspection form at all. If we do look at that, it's more for the safety of our staff and what do they feel comfortable doing this inspection in person versus remote. So what is a remote inspection? It's essentially a scheduled Zoom meeting between your inspector and you, the operator. So you are acting as our proctor, essentially, during this inspection while carrying us around in a video conference with your mobile device. We'll be asking you questions throughout, asking you to take temperatures, test sanitizers, show us documentation, things like that. It's really not a different inspection. We're still focusing on the foodborne illness risk factors that have always been there and that we've always evaluated. We're just doing it in a new way. And it does actually replace your in-person routine inspection. So something to keep in mind as well. Some key points of differences between remote inspections and then even in-person inspections going forward is that remote inspections are scheduled. So you will work with your inspector to find a time that works for both of you. It's done through Zoom as a platform. And because we aren't there actually in person to receive your signature on the inspection report, we just ask for an email confirmation that you received the report, and that serves as your signature for the remotes. Again, they're still focused on foodborne illness risk factors, and they do serve as your routine inspection. Now, in-person inspections going forward are still going to be unscheduled. And whenever the inspector arrives, they will be masked. So we request that you and your staff are masked as well for our safety and yours. And we will be evaluating the COVID-19 controls in place at the start of the inspection, but it's not going on your report and it's not a part of the process. It's more a gauge on if that inspector feels that they can safely perform that inspection. It will be a socially distanced inspection as well. And again, just like all of our other inspections, focused on those foodborne illness risk factors. But the goal is for these remote inspections to be as similar to an in-person inspection as possible. So with scheduling a remote inspection, an inspector is going to first reach out to you through either email or maybe a phone call to the business or whichever phone number we have on file. And we're going to work with you to schedule a time to do the inspection. Now, we don't want you to pick these times that are your peak business hours. There's tons of commotion going on in the kitchen. You got 12 different projects going at once, and we don't want you to be worrying about staying on the phone call with us during that process. So pick a time that works for you where you can really give it your full attention. And whenever you do agree upon a time, you will get a Zoom invitation for that scheduled time. So what are some things that you need to have ready for these inspections? You're going to need to have a stable internet connection. I think it goes without saying that an inspection done remotely over the internet needs to have a stable internet connection for it to work efficiently. You're going to need to have a probe thermometer and some alcohol wipes to sanitize it between items, and a cup of ice slurry, which is essentially just mostly ice and a little bit of water. And that's so that we can calibrate the thermometer there at the beginning of the inspection to make sure it's accurate. You're going to want to have test strips for your sanitizer so that we can record the concentration of those. And then, pest control service records, all these things that we would normally ask for throughout an inspection. But if you're spending time digging around looking for them, it's just going to make it go a little slower. So if you have all that stuff ahead of time, it just goes a little smoother. With that said, I'm going to send it over to Tiffany to talk more about scheduling and what that process actually looks like.
So the big day comes, and you may be wondering, how exactly does this inspection work? There are a lot of questions that you may have, and knowing a little bit about the process will help you feel better prepared. I'm Tiffany Butler, and I will give you a little guidance on how to connect to the meeting the day of the inspection, and we'll let you know what the inspector will look for. So Daniel mentioned that you will get a Zoom invitation. This invitation will come to your email, and once you receive the email, click yes to accept the invitation as seen on this slide. The Zoom link will then appear on your calendar. The day of the inspection, go to the link that was sent to you. It should not require you to enter a passcode or a meeting number. All you need to do is just click and you will be taken into the meeting. Once you click on the link, your phone will most likely look like this. Click on the bottom left to connect to the audio, and then you'll want to click to connect over the internet. The next step is to unmute yourself if you're not already unmuted, and finally to start your video if that's not already started, and you'll be ready for the inspection. So what now? Well, each inspector may handle the inspection a little bit differently, but you can expect some consistency on what you will be asked and what you will need to show them. Be ready to discuss your employee illness policy, to check your thermometer for accuracy with the ice slurry that Daniel talked about, and look at your last pest control inspection report. And if you have a variance or a HACCP plan, the inspector will want to discuss those things, as well as many other questions. At some point, the inspector will want a brief tour. You may be tempted to want to hold your phone down so you can see the inspector's face, but then the inspector will be looking at the ground. By keeping your phone up, walking slowly, and following the inspector's lead, this will allow the inspector to get a good idea as to what is happening in the kitchen. When the inspector lets you know it's time to start taking temperatures, remember to have your alcohol wipes ready. Again, just follow the inspector's lead, show them what you have, and that will aid them into making the best decision as to what the inspection, where it will go from there. Washing your hands at this step is essential. At some point during the inspection, you will be asked to demonstrate ware washing, looking at the mop sink and taking temperatures of the water. Again, just follow the inspector's lead. The inspector will review with you what was found at your food establishment and give you guidance as needed. Be sure to ask questions. Lastly, expect an emailed copy of your report to come shortly, along with educational materials. So the next part of the presentation, Shana will give you some hints to help the inspection to be even more successful.
Hi, my name is Shana Guyton, and I'm an inspector in the Kansas City area, Johnson County. And I would like to thank Tiffany and Daniel for their portion of the presentation in covering what to expect during a remote inspection and the how-to. Since we've been doing inspections for a little while due to the COVID-19, there are some things that we've learned to be helpful in the process. So first, as the operator, we say, do not be nervous. This inspection is the same approach as it has always been. Nothing has changed. We're still covering the same things. And it has helped to remember that our common goal is food safety. This approach is a great opportunity for dialogue between you and the inspector. So some helpful tips. When scheduling your inspection, you want to schedule during a time that's most convenient when you have enough staff. Please do not schedule during a time where it's like your lunch rush or dinner rush. It's also been recommended that headphones and earbuds have been helpful with combating the noise level within the establishment. Having alcohol wipes for your food probe thermometer to prevent cross-contamination with the different foods and food types. Also having an extra food thermometer on hand in case the one that you selected has got knocked around or may have fallen onto the floor. We wouldn't have to stop the inspection, but we can continue on where we left off. And last but not least, ask questions if you're unsure of anything. Also, what we've learned, having additional persons have been helpful. If it's to have an extra set of hands to assist with equipment, your mobile device, etc. Also, if you need an interpreter, that's welcome as well. So while on the Zoom call, you want to make sure that you're using your rear-facing camera so that we may see what you're seeing, and also that you're using the devices that you are most familiar with. If this is your first Zoom call, please allow yourself an additional 5 to 10 minutes before signing on. And also, if you're having problems with the sign-on or Zoom, please reach out to your inspector for assistance. Once on the Zoom call, allow you time for the audio and the video to connect. Some Zoom challenges. It's just like anything else with an app and your internet connection. There may be spots within the establishment that have weak signals, or you may lose signal. If this happens to you, say if you're walking into your walk-in cooler, don't panic. Just walk back to the area where the signal was strong and know that we will get through this together. So let's bring it all together. So before the meeting, you want to make sure that you have the necessary equipment ready, whether it's your cell phone or tablet, making sure that that's charged and you have your food probe thermometer. Also, you want to have the documentation that was requested at the scheduling by the inspector ready to go. If you have questions, please ask. Also, it has been recommended that having an extra set of hands has been helpful. And know that this is still the same inspection approach as it always been. And to not forget that the reason why we're doing this is to be safe.
Well, thank you, Daniel, Tiffany, and Shana. My name is Adam Inman, and I'm the Assistant Program Manager for the Food Safety and Lodging Program at the Kansas Department of Agriculture. And I'll be spending the next few minutes with you during our question and answer session. And I'd like to introduce at this point Dana Ladner, who's the manager of KDA's Compliance, Education, and Agency Support Program. Dana's been monitoring the Q&A and chat, and we have a few questions coming in. So we'll get to those. And then please, any other questions that you have, please get those into the Q&A. We'll get those answered as best we can.
Great. Thanks, Adam. That was a wonderful group of information from those folks. Really appreciate the time. We have had a couple questions come in. Daniel, I'm going to throw these first two to you, please, because they kind of went with the beginning of the presentation with it. Someone wants to know, what if the signal breaks up and we can't complete the remote inspection?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's definitely something that arises from time to time. So inevitably, different parts of the building have different signal strengths. So anytime that we encounter that, we just kind of ask you to backtrack to where we have the strongest signal. Maybe try to call in again. If it becomes a repeated issue, then maybe we'll try something else. Like the second question here that says, since we're out in Western Kansas, we don't have internet service and our little processing plant will FaceTime work. So that's an option that we could do too through the cellular service rather than your Wi-Fi. And inevitably, you're going to enter a walk-in, a big metal box, and signal might cut out or something. So we just backtrack and try to reconnect.
Great. Really appreciate that with it. We had one come in, and let's throw it to someone here with the KDA team. What documents will be requested other than the pest control information?
I'll take that one. Okay. So what documents other than pest control? We will also look to confirm that you have your KDA license posted, and as well as if you have a HACCP plan or a variance plan, and if you do, you know that you have one. We'll look at those plans as well. And also, if you have ServSafe certification, even though it's not required, we look at that just because it's always nice to have. Did I miss anything, Daniel or Shana?
Sometimes maybe if the certain documents couldn't be produced right then, we might ask for photo proof of the documents for certain scenarios.
Great. We had a question come in, and Adam, I'm going to throw this one to you. When COVID is over, do you anticipate that Zoom scheduled inspections will continue to be used?
I believe that we will continue to use the Zoom or other virtual presence platforms to some extent. Our goal, of course, is always to be good stewards of our funding sources, and so they allow us to be more efficient in some of our inspection activities. So we can do follow-ups quickly, particularly in parts of Kansas where we have long drive times. Even though we have inspectors all over the state, we could do some quick follow-up type of inspections for certain issues that are easily documented electronically. So we'll do it in some fashion. I think we're all looking forward to the time when the COVID emergency is a not so fond memory and getting back to more normal types of activities.
Well, great. Well, something that's really come up on a couple of these questions are from new business owners. So out to the team, we had one that came in and said, I'm a new business owner. Is it required to have my pest control documentation at that time? And I'm also new to the industry. What tips might you have for me getting in as a new business owner?
I'll take that one. So as a new business owner, we don't expect, unless you've already had pest control services, to have documentation. Also, if you view our website or reach out to your inspector when scheduling the inspection, there are documentation guides we do provide that lists what is expected to have during the licensing.
Well, great. Does anybody else from the KDA team have anything that they want to add in as a tip for a new business owner that may be out there?
I think I can take something on that. One thing that I know when I was an inspector many moons ago, I think that awareness in your establishment about that pests can enter, and that if you can recognize when they arrive, it's easier to combat it sooner than later. And so know that it's not unusual to have pests, but the quicker you can identify them, the quicker you can get control over them. So as a new business owner, just awareness level is important.
Well, great. One of the things that's really, really popular in the state of Kansas and beyond are mobile units. They want to know, from a question that was submitted, are they supposed to have pest control service as well?
Yeah, I'll take that, Dana. So we don't have a requirement that any business use a pest control operator, but oftentimes that expertise is well worth the value. So encourage folks to vet various pest control operations in your area. You may want to check with the Kansas Department of Agriculture's pesticide and fertilizer program if you have questions about their licensing status. They are required to be licensed as well. But work with those operators, build a rapport with them, and lean on their expertise. But that said, we don't have a requirement. You can do your own pest control. You need to follow all those requirements with pesticide product labels, and there's a lot of technical information that you might not think of. There's a lot of techniques and expertise that a pest control operator could bring to bear. So it really, you need to bring that on to fit your situation the best that you can.
I would like to plug that we also have a Zoom webinar May 24th, specifically to pests. So make sure that you look for that registration opportunity as well.
Thank you, Autumn. And also with the question that came in about the landlord being in charge, that's definitely has been a challenge over the years from time to time. And so that's part of your, being a tenant, paying rent, that needs to be accounted for. So work with them to make sure that you're getting the pest control that you need so that it's not impacting your business negatively.
Great. One thing that I have found out in working with the food safety team at KDA is that a lot of our inspector are former operators in the food businesses and in the industry. And I do know that they are always willing to answer questions from new business owners. So, make sure that you reach out to the Department of Agriculture, those that are new to the industry, and just ask for your local inspector to give you a call or Zoom and be able to work through some of those issues with it. I do have a COVID question. If somebody would like to answer this from the team, if you have an employee who tests positive for COVID, how long before they should work in the kitchen?
Well, I'll jump on that one, I guess, right? That's a little hot potato there. So that is something that we would refer you to your local health department in the county, or if you're in a larger city, and work with them to follow those guidelines to make sure that they're not a risk of transmission to the rest of your employees and to your customers. So definitely reach out to the health departments. I know that they're stressed right now, but if you have trouble with that, we can dig into some specifics and try to help connect you with some resources. But really recommend your first contact be with your local health department.
Great. Daniel, I want to throw this back to you. We had some questions that were submitted ahead of time. And if you just want to go over this again, it was, will the remote inspection be scheduled ahead of time? And what is the protocol for both KDA and those in the industry for COVID-19?
Yeah, so they are scheduled, right? So we reach out to you and we find a time that works best for you as the business owner or operator or whichever manager you have doing the inspection with us. And then as far as COVID-19, we're trying to keep our staff safe as well as you safe from potentially our staff. And so we'll be masked, social distanced during the inspection. We just ask that everybody that we encounter as well is masked and keeping that social distance in the workspace as well as during the inspection. And we'll do our best to mitigate any risk as well.
Well, great. We have a number of people that are logged on and we have about 5 minutes left. So if any of our participants have questions, make sure that you put that in the question and answer so we can get to them. Because right now is a really great time to interact with your KDA team when they're doing their outreach. And so this is a great opportunity for you guys. So one thing I want to ask, and I'd like all three inspectors to answer this for me. is we had someone write in when they registered that we've been through one inspection of this type virtually. It seems really easy, but they worry if the KDA team catches everything that they need and all the information that they need to make sure that they're safe for their customers. So if everybody, all three KDA inspectors will take a quick stab at that, please.
Yeah, so we're trying to make it as similar as possible to an in-person inspection. So that's where working with you, the operator, and having that good working relationship to be able to ask you certain questions, get honest responses, and then kind of be methodical and purposeful in how we go about the inspection as well.
So the inspection is an opportunity as the operator to present the most honest picture. It's not about us wanting to ding you for something, but it's an opportunity for growth. So it helps us to help you with the honesty of what you're presenting, and we're asking questions according to the risk base of your type of establishment. So it's a lot of thought process that happens before we even begin the meeting.
And I agree with what both Shana and Daniel said as well. And we're mainly going to be focused on the high risk, like Shana was touching on, and the, all of those aspects. And so we aren't going to be quite as detailed as we normally would be, but we try to make it as close as possible.
Well, great. Tiffany, if you just want to stay on, question is, how do you determine if an inspection will be remote or in person?
So right now, pretty much the whole, we go by if the state is all red. I don't know if anybody has seen that map. And so if, so right now, pretty much most of them are being done remotely. If you have a low risk or a medium risk facility, we have the option to come out if there's like only 1 or 2 employees. So you might, we might pop in if it's a small establishment like that. But if it's like a full service restaurant, most of the time it will be done remotely.
Well, great. We have just about 2 minutes left with it, so I want to get through as many questions as possible. For the KDA team, will food trucks be inspected remotely as well?
Yes, we're inspecting food trucks remotely currently.
And Shana, if you just want to stay on, would my regular inspector be in charge of my remote inspection?
In most cases, yes, but there have been times where other inspectors have stepped in to help with remotes.
Great. We had another question on pest control, but like Autumn said, we're going to follow up with some additional information on that. We talked a little bit about a question about returning to work. As Adam stated, we need to make sure that we get back to your county health department on that. So the last question I'm going to ask for our team today before we're done is, the person writes in that they're new to this. Is there a guideline or checklist that can be provided to business owners to best prepare and change practices now prior to this new type of inspection?
I'll take that one. If it's something that I commonly refer to, let's see, I don't know if my picture is coming up, but if everyone can hear me, good, okay. So there we do have within our educational handouts a self-inspection sheet. And so we can connect that resource to our website where you're going to view the recording, but it's a great self-check. And it hits all the high points, all the high risk practices that people need to be aware of. And so it's a really, really great tool to use. Recommended.
Well, great. We are at the end of our time. Like I said, we have a couple questions, but we've answered those already with that. With that, Autumn, I'm going to turn it back to you for the wrap up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dana. So thank you to everyone for attending our today's session. This recorded session will be posted on our website, like I've mentioned, later this week. and along with the registration for next month's webinar covering cooling and reheating of foods. So look for the survey in the near future, and please help answer those survey questions to assist us with planning future outreach sessions. Thank you very much.